The next speech, we would like to invite Amba Jamir from Netherlands. Amba Jamir is a founder for Substantial Development Forum Netherlands and has worked for Bamboo Substantial Development many years. Let us welcome for the Amba Jamir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jack. Am I audible? Yeah, I have a presentation that I have to share, so I need the. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
And I need to share the presentation now. So can you give me the presenter option? Okay, now I got it. Can you see this? Is it clear?
Yes, it is very clear.
Okay, thank you. So the presentation today, basically, I will not be really speaking as a bamboo person, or much has been said about the bamboos that has been discussed. We've heard about technologies, we've heard about different types of approaches and innovations. So I will not get into that, but a different perspective with regards to having worked with where I'm representing today is the Integrated Mountain Initiative, an initiative where we work with 12 Indian mountain states and where we engage with mountain people with regards to different issues. So I'll be speaking in a way reflecting their points of views and their opinions. The IMI is basically a civil society organization. We work with the policymakers, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with researchers, and a whole gamut of people. We have, at this point in time, 4 focus areas looking at disaster risk resilience. We're looking at sustainable habitats. We're looking at water and resource management, and we're looking at agriculture. And all of this, in some way or the other, is related to how we use our resources, particularly also bamboo resources. The cross-cutting themes are climate change, livelihoods, entrepreneurship, and policy, of course. Now, quickly narrowing down to my region, the Northeast, if you look at it, many of you may be aware of it, some of you may not be aware, and therefore just this one slide to make it a little perspective for you. The Northeast of India is basically a geographical region which spans to about 8% of the total geographical area of India. And within that 8%, we have 80 species of bamboos, 41 of which are endemic. And not only that, 66% of the total bamboo stock of India. And that is how rich this region is with regards to our bamboo resources. But besides that, which is often what most institutions and most entrepreneurs talk about when we talk about bamboo, is that there is a very strong, not only the resource base, but a skills base and a knowledge base in the region. The strong bamboo culture, and this is something that we need to really engage with, get into, and make sure that we are not making a disconnect. Now, if I bring you to this slide, you will see how people on the left side are engaged on an everyday basis, whether it's in their farms or at their homes or everyday activities. It's a part of their lives, whether it's communication centers or even on the top right, on the top left corner, the little green hut that you see, that is actually a quarantine center built for COVID-19 at today's situation, and how people are making use of all these resources to do best what they can. And this is something that is really needs to be looked into more closely, because in the process, while we do have wonderful interventions and we do have wonderful technologies, and we focus a lot on how to make business enterprises, which is very important and needs to be supported, we need to ensure that the knowledge created, the technologies available to the industries also comes down to the last mile. If you look at the huts at the bottom, on one side is the Kongyak Naga house, everyday living house structure, and on the other side is a typical gazebo that you see in parks, which has been treated so well, has had a lot of design interventions, and it stands out very different from the everyday hut that a person uses in the communities. The thing is, the community members are always reached out to when we want them to be engaged in the bamboo sector business as laborers, as growers, as providers of raw material, and at times even as artisans. The other sad part is, despite all that engagement, despite all that connects that we make, many a times the technologies that is available, the knowledge that is available is not transferred to them. Rather, we are taking it one way, but we are not transferring back to them in many ways. And this is something that as a talk today, I thought I would focus a little bit more on this. There therefore is a very big gap, a chasm, if I may say so. Traditionally, if you look at the way traditional societies manage their resources, they have land use management systems, they have resource management systems, and all of this are managed at a landscape level. They're not looking at it from a bamboo growth management perspective or a forestry management perspective. They're looking at it from a large perspective in terms of watershed management, in terms of land use for agriculture, for bamboo groves, for natural forests, and so on and so forth. This is something that we must look into very strongly, even as we plan scientific bamboo management aspects. The other thing is the knowledge management and use of how communities are using the management skills, what knowledge skills that they have, and how do they use this knowledge to choose species and to select the and management and planting seasons. It's really intriguing the way the cycle of a moon becomes so important with regards to how good or bad their harvest is. And these are issues that should and must be looked into. The other thing is the integrated functional skills, practices, and value systems. So the skills that the communities have is integrated very strongly to everyday usage, functionary skills and practical purposes they have. And more importantly, it is not disengaged from their culture and from their value systems. And this is something which we have to ensure that stays strong, because it is these people, it is their culture and their value systems which has ensured that, for example, in the Northeast, whatever we have today is because of this value system. And if we disengage the people and the products and the bamboos from this and look at it only as an industrial product, we could be ending up in trouble. On the other side, if you look at this whole scale of development that is promoted or that is being planned, a lot of good intentions, a lot of good strategies are being developed, but the focus continues to be looking at the scale of the economy, looking at how much industries require, looking at how much needs to be supplied to the industries. The other thing that communities have complained is when participating in this whole bamboo value chain and bamboo development activities, there is too much focus on so-called superstar species and exotic species which certain industries require. In the process, a lot of locally relevant species are getting left out. A lot of locally relevant species are not getting the research attention or the development R&D attention that is required. And I think this is something that must be looked into, because this, at the end of the day, is where the entire comprehensive management of bamboo resources needs to be looked into. Quality, quantity, and profits seems to be the push and pull for the industry, but we need to look back and think are we doing enough for people and planet also in this regard? I'm going a little fast because we are a little short on time, and I want to make sure that I don't miss out on the things that we want to see. So if you look at it, sustainability of the industry, sustainability of what we are doing really, really matters. But so does social capital and bamboo culture. And we have to ensure that this connect is not left as it is. I've said it earlier, I'm just repeating it. Research, innovation, and skill development must benefit communities living with bamboos. It has to trickle down to them. All research has to build upon the knowledge base that exists. The last mile, if some development specialists may call it, but this last mile could be our cornerstone. We have to nurture it. This is the resource bank from where we will get the bamboo resources. This is a resource bank from where we will get the skilled artisans. This is a resource bank from where we will get the knowledge that, if once lost, might not be able to recall. So this is something we really need to work in hand, even as we develop our industries, even as we develop so many other academic research in universities. The third point is a lot of concern has been raised, especially by the poorest of the poor bamboo farmers, is the elite capture of a lot of bamboo activities. How do we ensure that there is no elite capture? How do we ensure that community as a whole is developing together? And therefore, bankable communities and community institutions are as bankable and as attractive as is bankable entrepreneurs and industrialists who are investing so much in bamboo sector. We must look into this. We must ensure that business models also look at well-being of the communities that we are working with. If bamboo be the poor man's timber, definitely the poor man must also equally earn in an equitable manner. And we must make sure that these things on the profit margins are well managed at all levels. I will not go into too many details of this, but we need to look into management of bamboo resources at landscape levels. We must not get restrained by looking only at plantations or wherever species that we like are there. We must ensure that the diversity of bamboo species that exists in the natural way and also in the plantation manners looks at it. The organic connect in terms of myths, knowledge, practices, and the whole re-engineering process of understanding how people accept and use bamboo, not because it is an alternative, but because it is the resource to be used. And this is where we must look into it. Lastly, I would want to really pitch in it is, as each one of us in our own ways work with bamboo farmers and bamboo resources, we must ensure that communities who are managing and maintaining the bamboos that exist, even in the wild, they must be incentivized. The ecosystem services of bamboo to the communities, to the local environment, is something we must not ignore. In terms of the Taiwan-India Connect, I'm so sorry the font is very small there in the presentation, but I want to just sort of clock people's memory back to 2010 when Mr. Kamesh Salam was very instrumental in this, where the Kohima Declaration for Bamboo was made. And in this Kohima Declaration for Bamboo, even at that time, they were talking about the issue of convergence, the need for village-level micro-enterprises, which Mr. Giriraj has spoken about so well, and so did Nirpal in a way bring it up. We need to ensure that village-level micro-enterprises and not necessarily just the big fat industries that are required. We must make sure that there is a connect, there is a symbiotic relationship between these two. Only then can we talk about livelihoods all the way down to the poorest of the poor. That is something which was talked about then, and I think I'm just reflecting it once again. The other thing is, success stories are nice, they're good, and we need to look into it, but we must ensure that the success stories we're looking at is suitable to the local environment, is suitable to the local agroclimatic conditions, is suitable to the land ownership models, the land ownership tenure systems in the communities. If we don't keep that into mind, what will happen is it will be the rich, it will be the elite who will look into it and who might just be capturing it. So we need to understand it from that perspective. Species innovations, this is again something that has been talked about, but what I want to flag is this whole issue of when we're talking about product development and adaptation, I think we need to really look into this whole richness of the handloom sector, where there's so much richness in regards to not just design but innovative activities that are happening in the not only in handicraft but also handloom. We need to look into handloom textiles, that potential that we have in this regard. Value chain, when we talk about it, people tend to again always think about what can we export, where can we send, but we need to look into the local market economies. Until and unless the local economies, the local ecosystem is developed, it will be very difficult to just springboard into a larger spectrum of activities. The bamboo incubator and innovation has a living bamboo lab in Manipur and Nagaland. I think this is something that is really, really great, and this was something that again was talked about in the Kohima Declaration 10 years ago, where they talked about bamboo value addition parks at village levels. And I think we need to really continue looking into this. I'm so happy about the upgradation of the Bamboo Tech app, because there is a need to ensure that we have bamboo related knowledge resources pulled together in one single place which is accessible to everybody. There's information available, so many interesting things happening, but information is scattered. So if through this India-Taiwan collaboration, if we can really think about how can we pull together bamboo related information, bamboo related knowledge, bamboo related ideas, and make it accessible and possible for people to make use of. That is something very, very encouraging, and I must really say that through such an app, the other thing is this need for intergenerational learning. The older people, the older generation who have knowledge about bamboo, about its uses, and about so many other things related to bamboo, we must ensure that this connect is built up. We must ensure that through this connect, the young people's interest in the bamboo sector is activated again. Not only as a business person, but even as a everyday functional craft in the villages, in the communities. Why can they not learn to make things on their own? And this is something that really, really needs to be looked at. Collaboration and technology development is something which has been talked about. I will not talk about, but at the end of the day, what I really want to be talking about is bamboo was the material once upon a time, before, even before plastics came. Now we are talking about bamboo as an alternative to the plastics, but no, I think we need to keep saying that bamboo is not an alternative. It is and must be the natural choice. So with all that, I thank you all very much.